My name is Rosalind Janssen, so obviously a foreign name. I'm married to a Dutchman who happens to share the same profession. So we both do Egyptology, so we're professional Egyptologists. And I'd like to tell you how I became a teacher. I was first introduced to the WEA when I was in my early 20s and began teaching for them when I was 23 years of age. So obviously with a few gaps I've been in the WEA for a reasonable amount of time. I used to teach Egyptology at University College London in the Institute of Archaeology, but when I left there I was very keen to come back to the WEA, and because I always believed in what it stood for, and having come back after a reasonable amount of time I saw big changes in the way it operated, so positive changes with regard to the promotion of teaching and learning. So I've come back in the last few years and have been felt really privileged to meet such interested learners in my classes, so motivated. Egypt's very topical at the moment. We've all watched with great interest and concern and jubilation what has been happening in Egypt from the end of January. So there were a lot of references to the departure of Mubarak as to the last pharaoh leaving his post, followed by even more uncertain times perhaps with widespread strikes all over the country. What interests me in my subject is the connection between past and present, and certainly this idea of strikes is by no means new, and in fact the first strikes in antiquity actually go back to ancient Egypt, and the workers who were building the tombs of the pharaohs actually went on strike against a pharaoh still in power because they weren't being paid enough, so rations in bread and beer. And they actually lived in this village that I have in front of me, which is called the village of Deir el-Medina on the west bank of Luxor. They lived in these houses here, which are still preserved archaeologically, about 500 inhabitants. And I find it really amazing that these people were able to actually rebel against the state, organise a strike, go down to the nearest temple and barricade themselves in that temple and actually get the pharaoh to accede to their demands. So it's all a bit as if we've come full circle with Mubarak's departure today, but the pharaoh in ancient Egypt stayed in post for another 2 years.